things going on all the time. Greater access to seeing them happen in front of us is confusing. It's sometimes painful. But in the end, love sets it all free. Let's love. It's the only answer.
Tell me what you want me to do. Tell me until when you did the intro.
57 seconds, 55, 56. And then you could just bring it up. We're live on Facebook, babe. Are you ready?
I am ready.
It's my wife. She's my co-host for today.
I'm gonna start fading. I'm gonna start fading out.
Okay, thank you. Greetings, world. Welcome to Meet Them Mondays on Jolt Radio. I'm your host, Christian Portilla, and today in the studio I am accompanied by my very first co-host and my partner in life and my wife, Melani.
Hey, hey, hey.
Welcome, babe.
What up?
For those of you that follow my work, you might see my wife behind the scenes. She's my forever plus one. And I asked her to come on the show today because since this is the last show of 2017, I thought, you know what, she's been on this crazy ride with me from the jump, and I wanted you all to meet her and give her some airtime because she lives this journalism dream with me, but like on the silent end. So babe, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Babe, do you want to give a history of how Meet the Monday started and where we were when I had the idea and what we were doing?
Sure. We were driving back from North Carolina, and we were listening to a podcast, and the podcast that I played for you, and you fell in love with it, and then you just came up with the idea. You're like, oh my God, babe, what do you think if I make a podcast? And I was like, that's an awesome idea. And we just kind of shared stories and took it from there.
We shared stories, and the idea had been coming along because I'm sorry I keep pulling your mic away, but
It's
I hear
okay.
you so loud. The stories, I guess, because I've been doing journalism for years now, and I would always come home and tell you like, oh, I met this person, and I would connect them online, and just like I would say, okay, I met such and such person on Monday. I interviewed them. They were super cool. And then I interviewed someone else on Wednesday, and they were super cool.
Right.
And I would go home and tell you all these stories, and I would be like, if Monday and Wednesday people met, this would be so amazing.
Yeah, I remember I used to tell you to record them so I can hear everything that you guys talked about, because you would bring up little moments of the conversations, and I guess that's what led to Meet Them Mondays.
Exactly. The idea for Meet Them Mondays was to, I guess, introduce people in one common space and meet each other. And so then the podcast started, and the podcast turned into now the radio show. And it really was like, it just kept growing. And
Yeah.
it became like a common space for people to meet each other.
Correct.
And so for 2018, we're actually adding more to the Meet Them Mondays platform, if you will, or like the shows. And I wanted to bring more back of the human element and focus more on telling everyday life stories. And I remember we had this conversation recently, and I guess we wanted to take it back to the roots, because when I had the idea for Meet Them Mondays, we thought, okay, we're going to share stories of the human experience. And then, I don't know for the creatives out there and for you as well, babe, because you're a creative, but when you start a project, you start with an idea, but then
It leads into all different types of things.
It does, and your project almost tells you what it wants to become.
Yeah.
And then your project almost becomes like a baby, and it starts growing, and it develops, and then it teaches you about life and just about things. And so that's what happened with Meet Them Mondays. And originally it started as a place to tell these stories, and I started focusing a lot on community, and community has always been something I liked.
Right.
When I started, even in my journalism days, with the hair of like Well, I'm still in my journalism days, in my early days.
Yeah, you're right. And I remember we had this conversation not too long ago, and how I told you to kind of take it back to its roots and just talk about everyday people, because there's a lot of everyday people out there that also need their voices to be heard. And I think, you know, it's part of a human experience to not just have a movement, but just to be the movement itself. So yeah, I'm glad that you are kind of shifting back to where it all started.
Yeah, and the more people started listening to the podcast Now Turns radio show, I would have people message me like, hey, do I have to have a project, or do I have to have an idea or something that's going on? Like, there's just this, you know, this thing that I went through, or this story that I went through. And I kind of struggled with that at first, because, you know, with branding and with being out there and putting your project out there, you want it to be as clear as possible. But the journalist in me is just like, well, there's stories that need to be told. And the reason why we wanted to bring it back was also because the original idea started as telling the human experience. And that was, well, later on in the show, you're going to get to hear one of my very first interviews, because now that this is the last show of 2017, I wanted to recap this year and also take it back to one of my very first stories. And so, with that being said, because I cover a lot of community, but I also do culture and lifestyle, I wanted to speak with you all the listeners out there and the people watching us, that if you want to have your story told, or if you want to share your story with us, or if you want to email me and just talk to me a little bit more about what you have in mind, I would love to hear from you. I'm asking you all to send your stories or your ideas to my email. So it's info, I-N-F-O, at Rome, R-O-A-M, free, rights, as in writing, WRITES.com. And on the subject line, put Meet Them Mondays. And then these stories can be about life experiences, about things we've gone through. They can be about anything really. But we want to hear more of these human stories. I want to hear more about these.
I want to hear them too.
I know you always hear about all the stories. You hear about everything. We're also, another development is that we're changing the days of Meet Them Mondays. So right now we currently do the show on the second and third Monday of the month, but we're doing it on the second and the last Monday of the month, starting 2018.
So every other week.
Basically, every other week. Perfect.
Awesome.
And so in February we're starting in February, but the dates for that will be on the 12th and the 26th.
And why are we starting in February?
Because we're taking January off, because I'm hosting the 1 year anniversary for Meet Them Mondays. Thank you, babe. I've been going back and forth, because the Gemini in me is always like, yes, no, do a party, no, don't do a party. But I'm going to do a party. I decided I'm going to do a party. I'm going to celebrate the Meet Them Mondays.
And everyone's invited.
Everyone is invited, literally. Everyone that I've ever interviewed or come in contact with, or who wants to be a part of Meet Them Mondays. The details are TBD, but they're coming soon, and it's going to be hosted on the last Friday of January, which is going to be January 26th, 2018. And it's just going to be a little party, but most importantly, a get-together, so everyone that I've ever interviewed can meet. If there's anyone that wants to come out and meet me personally, or if you know me from online,
you can meet me too.
You can meet Melani as well. I want to do this party because it's funny enough, we're talking about this, how sometimes you meet people online, but then or you follow people online, or you just know each other through the screen, and then you see them in person.
And it's like, wait, can I say hi?
Should
we
I
friends?
say hi?
Are we friends in real life?
I know everything about you, but
I don't know.
And like, I'm Colombian, y mi mamá siempre me enseñó que se saluda. So, to me, it's weird. Float in the back, because then during the show, she's like, yeah. Every time that you see someone, you should say hi or acknowledge them. And I know I'm guilty sometimes, because I hesitate, because I'm like, damn, I don't remember this person's name. And I love saying hi to someone and saying, hey, Melani, how are you? Or hey, so-and-so. But this is going to be a place where we're going to meet face to face.
Yes.
Where it counts, right?
Yeah.
It counts online, but it counts in person too.
Yeah.
So that's happening. That's really exciting. Babe, do you want to talk about Community Call? What's Community Call to you? That's another project I'm developing.
Community Call. I feel like the last few Meet the Mondays that you've done have all been kind of geared towards Community Call. So it's if anybody has a project or a movement or anything going on, you kind of just unite, or if they have a GoFundMe or something like that, you kind of bring these two worlds together where anybody in the community gets help, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
You did good. So Community Call started because a lot of people would send me emails or call me or text me or find me on social media and say, hey Chris, I have an idea for a project, I have an idea for a story, I have this, I have that, but I haven't necessarily started the project yet, or I don't have the funds, or I need help, or I need to meet someone.
How can I do this?
How can I do this? How can I do that? I want to be more involved. Just yesterday, someone was in my DMs asking me how to be more involved with the creative community. And so I started Community Call because I was for me to write a story or for me to interview someone, there has to be an idea already established. There has to be a project. There has to be something. But there are so many things that seem like missed opportunities where it would have been a great story, but the person is in the fetal stages of developing the idea, so it doesn't get coverage.
Right.
But I was like, well, I'm still a journalist, I'm still a writer, I have my own site. There's still a place for this to be published. And so if you go on runfreerights.com right now, which is my site, there's a Community Call tab at the top, and you'll see what examples of other community calls. And I'm more than happy to be that person, that connector, that plug, to put a post up there about what you want to do, and then other people will see it and either come to that, like answer that call, donate to your GoFundMe, maybe someone who can help you in the community wants to give you a jump start, etc. So that's Community Call. What else? Oh, very important. Shmoney.
Sponsors?
Sponsors. So none of this work can really happen without sponsors and without payments and without being paid. And for 2018, I really want to put that out there. Getting paid is not a bad thing to do your work. It's a passion. It's what I love to do. It's journalism. But writing is not free. It's not cheap. It costs me a lot of my time, a lot of my brain power, my energy, your energy.
Yeah.
And
give me shmoney.
Give me shmoney. Referencing Cardi B, I don't want to be, it's kind of like, oh, shameless plug, but not really, because getting paid for your craft or for your writing is very important. That's how you feed artists. That's how you keep us doing what we're doing. That's how I can keep my show on the radio. So, sponsors. For 2018, Meet the Mondays, the show, and RoamFreeRates.com, my website, is looking for sponsors, accepting sponsors. Give us your shmoney. It'll be put to good use, and I really want to put that out there. You can message me, info@RoamFreeRates.com, subject line sponsors or shmoney, whichever one is easier. And basically, this doesn't mean that because the sponsors are coming along, I won't continue to do the work that you all know me for, or the awesome stories that I cover. As you know, I'm very broad with my coverage. I don't pigeonhole myself, and sometimes that might be a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing because I don't only focus on just one thing. And so I'll be able to continue to bring you the stories that you have come to know me for, the stories that you love, and it just means that I'll have more support from brands and from companies that align with my ideas, with the work that I'm doing, and that want to support that.
Yeah.
And so, by the way, for people who want to put a face to the voice, what is your handle on the interwebs so they can find you?
At Mellow Mel's, if they don't already know, because I'm a lover.
Yeah, you're all over myself. And then mine is at Roam Free Rights. And so if you want to do community call, if you want to be on Meet Them Mondays, if you want to reach out to me, if you want to be connected, just either find me on social media. I'm all over the place as Roam Free Rights, or you can send me an email, info@roamfreerights.com. So now that we got that out of the way, I'm taking the month of January off, like I told you guys, to focus on this 1-year anniversary party that will be happening on January 26th, which is the last Friday of the month.
And that everyone's invited to.
And that everyone is invited to. Everyone, all of Miami. Everybody from all over the world that's listening. And so now that we're recapping the 2017 year of Meet Them Mondays and everything on roamfreerights.com, we're kind of taking it back to one of the very first stories that I did of the human experience, which was Steven Schneider.
Yes.
Which we both love very much. And Steven is an artist, and I actually met her while I was interviewing her for the Miami Herald. She was an artist at a festival called Trans Art Miami, and it's basically an art fair that caters to only transgender artists. And so we sat outside. I spoke to her about what she was doing, about her work, and then we sat outside for like what seemed to be like the whole entire day, like 4 or 5 hours. It rained, the sun came back out, the weather changed, and we became friends, and we exchanged our coming out stories. And Steven came out to her family at the age of 65, and she had lived her whole life identifying as something that she felt she wasn't. And when I first heard the story, I was so moved, which is I came home and told you, and I was like, by the way, we're going to New Mexico.
No. You
something
were
like
by
that.
the way, we're going to dinner, and I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, dinner
With
came
this
first.
Random person.
Yeah.
But then a month later, we went to New Mexico to meet her, and it was amazing. Steven is honestly one of the most inspiring people that I've ever met in my life. I remember going to New Mexico and being like freaked out about like, oh, we're flying somewhere to meet someone that we don't really know.
Yeah, because when I met her, she invited us.
Right, to stay over.
To stay at her house.
Yeah, and it was crazy, but we winged it, and
it was one of the best trips we ever.
It was honestly. I feel like Steven made me a little bit more comfortable, because after that trip, I started. I felt like I started like wearing more accessories and kind of like seeing different lights, because just seeing the way like she just felt so free. Yeah, that
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You never told me this.
She totally inspired me, and just like being in the studio, like it just
in
took
her
me.
art studio.
Yeah, it took me like to a place that I've never been, so I felt a little bit more comfortable after we came back from New Mexico. I remember I bought jewelry there.
I know.
And like I started, I guess I've been very like macho, and after that trip I was like, you know what, it's okay to be a little femme, you know?
Yeah.
So
you're like androgynous in your style.
Right. So I think she inspired a lot of that. So
damn, babe, you never shared that with me.
Yeah, I wanted to share it here.
What? I love when I do interviews and people tell me things they've never told me before.
Yeah, no, Steven, if you're watching.
Yeah, she should be watching. I'll tag her in a little bit.
You hold a special place in my heart.
In our hearts, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, well, taking it back to the recap before we let you all hear that conversation, because again, this is a recap of 2017 Meet Them Mondays, roamfreerights.com, and kind of taking it back to what this year has been like.
Mm-hmm.
What can you describe what this journey has been like?
It's like a roller coaster. You know, you love roller coasters. It's been a lot of ups, downs, more ups and downs. I feel like it's grown tremendously. To see you shining, you know, and it's crazy. I mean, it's dreams becoming reality. I get surprised every time we go somewhere and someone stops you and they're like, oh, you're Roam Free Rights, and I'm like, man, that's what's up. You're creating a name for yourself, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
And yeah, I mean, I'm just overwhelmed with joy, and I can't wait to see what the next year brings. And Meet the Mondays.
Thank you.
It's all up from here. And yeah, we got to celebrate on the 1 year.
We will on January 26th. If you're just tuning in to Jolt Radio, you're listening to Meet the Mondays. I'm your host, Christian Portilla, and I'm here with... That is so strange because it's on Do Not Disturb. Anyway, I'm here with my co-host and my wife, Melani, and she was just talking about how this year has been crazy for us and a beautiful, crazy ride.
Yeah.
And Meet the Mondays. So let's... anything else you want to talk about? Anything else about Meet the Mondays, Room Free Rides? I did want to say this. I did want to say thank you to you because
this is the part where it gets emotional.
I'm always emotional.
I know, that's why I'm bringing it up.
I did want to say thank you to you because you, even though, like I say, you're my forever plus one, you are like my secret weapon. You are my silent partner. You have been there through this a big chunk of this ride. You see me at my worst, you see me at my best, and everyone sees roamfreerides.com and sees my face.
Right.
And especially when we're at events together, I always try to make sure that I mention you and say, hey, this is my wife, this is Melani, because you're such an important piece to roamfreerides.com and to Meet the Mondays. And I really don't know how I would manage everything if it wasn't for your help.
No.
And so I'm really grateful for you. I'm really grateful for you're always putting, like I say, the fire under my ass. They're like pushing me to continue doing this. Sometimes it's like, why am I doing this? And then like 3 seconds later, because I love doing this.
Right.
And because it's for the people. And so like we've gone through so much on this journey, and we've sacrificed so much emotionally, financially, in our relationship, and we always figure it out. And I'm so grateful for that, and I'm so grateful for you, and you're the best partner that I could ever ask for. So thank you
for putting me on the spot while we're live on air.
I could do this for the whole show, but no, I really wanted to make sure that I ended the show letting you know.
I very much appreciate that. You know, I'm not big on words, especially when there's like spotlight on me, but you know, ride or die, do or die. That's we ride together.
We die together. That was for life. Okay, so moving on. Now that we got all of these things out of the way, all of the recap, everything that you need to know, I'm going to go ahead and play for you guys one of my very first Meet the Mondays.
Yes.
And so this is Steven Snyder. She is a transgender artist who is now living in New Mexico. If you go on roamfreerides.com, you'll be able to find a post that has all of her information and how you can connect with her. And yeah, we're just gonna listen to that, and we'll check back in once that story's over. Take it away. Today, you'll be meeting Steven Snyder, who I met during an art fair in Miami last summer. Steven is a transgender female artist who came out at 65. She will be sharing her story with us today from her home studio in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Make sure to check back every morning for a different story on roamfreerides.com.
Alfonso, what's up?
Hi, you interrupted me, Alfonso, and I had you on Do Not Disturb, so I don't know how this happened. But we're gonna go ahead and let you listen to the Steven Snyder interview that's playing now on joltradio.org, and then we'll check back in with you once the recording is over. So if you want to listen to it, go to joltradio.org. Bye. We'll check back with you in like 30 minutes or so.